Hello and welcome to Bristol, where today we're looking out over Isambard Kingdom Brunel's spectacular Clifton Suspension Bridge. Brunel famously called it my first love, my darling, which I understand, but for me is maybe a bridge too far. Welcome to a brand new episode of Landscape Artist of the Year. It's Heat 3, and as 8 new artists enter the pods, they're confronted by a daunting and dizzying view.
Have I painted a bridge before? No, I haven't, but there's a first for everything.
Fortunately, they've brought along some friends to keep them grounded. Until he's got his own pod.
I mean, look at that.
As always, they'll be working under the watchful gaze of our 3 distinguished judges.
So you're doing all sorts of stuff you don't normally do?
Yeah. Well, look, you've got to go for it, haven't you?
And alongside are wildcards, most of whom are playing nicely. But there's always one. Chris, there are 50 wildcards. 49 of them are looking that way.
Yeah.
For the winning artist, the prize of a lifetime awaits. They'll be travelling to southern France, a region that's inspired some of the greats of art history to carry out a £10,000 prize commission for the prestigious Courtauld Gallery in London. So who will create a riveting work of art?
I've got a larger brush at home.
That really
I couldn't even fit it in the car.
And who will burn their bridges?
I think just the expanse of that view, like, could be a complete disaster.
In Bristol today, we're joined by 8 competitors. Sarah Harris, a mixed media artist from Warrington. Printmaker Ian Cox, who lives in Devon. Stockport oil painter and illustrator Jonathan Hargreaves. And Kieran Guckian, a former web designer from Dublin.
I switched careers about just over a year ago, going to art full-time, so to get this is huge, yeah.
Also taking part today are Dan Wall, an expressionist painter from right here in Bristol. Gloucestershire artist Charlotte Kenyon. Chris Priestley, a writer and painter who lives in Cambridge. And from St Neots, contemporary landscape artist Jo Rance.
I'm feeling excited, but fingers crossed I don't make something rubbish on the telly.
Each artist has been chosen on the strength of a submission artwork, which they've brought along to display in their pods. And as they get set for the competition ahead...
Oh, no. Failed at the first point. I can't even put the apron on.
Each has their own strategy for success.
Mostly I'm aiming to not paint something bad, something that I'm not going to immediately destroy, which happens quite a lot.
Today's unusual item is Till, who is my best friend and familiar, and he's decided to come along as well and do his own painting. In case mine is rubbish, he's going to enter on my behalf.
Artists, you have 4 hours to complete your artworks, and your time starts now.
Can we take photos now? Can I go a bit further down there?
Perched on the terrace of the historic Avon Gorge Hotel, high above the valley, today's artists are confronted by a breathtaking feat of 19th century engineering.
Look at that.
The dramatic span of Clifton Suspension Bridge dominates their view, stretching across the gorge above the pods. Brunel's towers frame either end, standing tall atop the densely wooded and vertigo-inducing valley sides that plunge to the River Avon below.
It's all kind of very dramatic. The bridge took 30+ years to build, and we've got 4 hours to draw it.
I like to get things just the way they are. So I'm a bit concerned about the number of trees, because that can cause problems.
Today's view is marvellous in some respects, but potentially treacherous in others. So I am doing a panorama. It's a panorama, basically.
Jonathan Hargreaves cycled for Team GB before a gear change saw him become a full-time painter. His submission shows the view over Cadiz from the bell tower of the Spanish city's cathedral.
Hi, Jonathan. You're right in here with all this architectural detail.
Yeah. I love the idea of something that's panoramic, engaging. Those things really float my boat.
And it's difficult because the bridge is so bloody enormous. And I think actually this foregrounding gives you a jumping off point for your eye to settle.
It does. The initial photograph is slightly fisheye, so there's a bend.
And then we go to your fabulous submission, which again has got the same sort of perspectival drive.
Yes.
You've given us this fabulous window. We're rushing over the view.
It's just very large brushstrokes that imply sort of stonework.
I mean, this one is like...
I've got a larger brush at home.
That really
I couldn't
slap
even
it on.
fit it in the car.
That's so funny. It's like putting your downstairs loo.
I'm very emotional when I paint. I think what sets my work apart from other artists is probably the struggle that goes into it.
Born and bred Bristolian Dan Wall describes herself as a classic tormented artist. Her expressive submission in oils is of Glencoe's Three Sisters and represents the close bond she shares with her own.
Hi, Dan. I feel like I've come in at the end of the challenge. What are you going to do with the rest of the 4 hours?
I don't know, like sometimes I start painting and it doesn't go right and I sort of have this tantrum. So this could be my tantrum piece.
Oh, I see.
I'm such an emotional painter, so I'm just winging it.
Well, your submission made us feel that you weren't winging it. Just the way in which the paint is applied and the layering, it's got a real vitality to it.
Thank you.
So today, what made you decide that you wanted to focus on that section there?
Things sort of have an energy, and so I'm just going with her. I just kind of feel like this...
female.
All great things are female.
Oh, well, that's true, but I didn't know about
No,
bridges.
she's a she.
Okay.
So, yeah, she's singing.
Spectacular, isn't it?
It is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, and a lot of it has to do with sort of angles. We're sort of looking up at a bridge, and there's a kind of abyss. It's just beautiful.
And this sort of wall of green that's facing us. It's a really steep drop, isn't it, down to the Avon?
I mean, it's fantastic. There is a problem, of course. It's very wide.
Right.
And it's very deep.
Right.
So a lot of editing has got to take place. And also, the sun is sort of coming in and out, and that's also problematic. But that's, you know, the joy of painting outside in plein air. It's a beautiful structure. Who built it?
The person with the best name of any name ever that ever existed. Isambard Kingdom Brunel.
I mean, with a middle name like Kingdom, you're set to do great things.
Oh, yeah. Got a light.
While I go off to check my girders, our next artist is busy solving the puzzle of today's view.
When I'm painting a landscape, I almost treat it like a jigsaw, kind of just build it, and then, fingers crossed, something that looks like what I'm trying to paint actually comes out.
Jo Rance is an artist with a love of rural landscapes. Working in acrylics, she constructs an image in brightly coloured and textured patches, as in her vivid depiction of Dartmoor.
I can see a bit about where you're headed because of your glorious submission.
Yeah.
I really remember this work because I really loved this sort of interplay that you had between something that felt like a tapestry or a textile.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, you really thought about like the texture and the feeling of a landscape.
Yeah, I try and take the forms from the actual landscape. As soon as I've got the sort of jigsaw of the painting down and the areas and everything, I can go in and I do like stippling and like little marks.
And that gives us that tapestry feeling because
Yeah.
they're all resisting each other.
Yeah.
When I'm painting a landscape, I'm trying to capture a feeling of that place. Like, what does it feel like to be there? So, yeah, today I want to get the deepness of that gorge somehow. Yeah, basically.
Irishman Kieran Guckian became a full-time artist just 12 months ago. His atmospheric landscape depicts a mountain ridge and deep ravine in County Wicklow, and he's also aiming to get to the bottom of things today.
Hi, Kieran. It's a very strange composition. You've decided to go for, like, the armpit, in the sense of where the tower and the bridge meet.
Yeah. What interests me is the way it sits in the landscape, and having the railway tunnel at the bottom really shows the height of this whole place. I like the way you can see just, like, how deep that is.
So, Kieran, let's talk about your submission.
Yeah.
It is a stunning bit of painting. It's very dramatic. You're using a lot of contrast.
That's up in a place called Glendalough, and that cliff face, when the sun hits over, it goes completely into shadow. And then as the day goes, bits come up.
So today's painting will be a similar thing where you will be waiting for it to do certain things that you want it to do and capture those bits?
Yeah, if I can, yeah.
Okay.
Just along the gorge, another 50 artists are also preparing to stare into the abyss. Our fearless wildcards.
I haven't painted outside before, and it was really interesting to come and see the bridge in real life. You feel like how it's strong and powerful. There's lots of history behind this bridge. Yeah.
We're on a slope, which is interesting, and there's a tree. Chainsaw would be good.
A place in the semi-final could be on the cards for the artist who produces the judges' favourite landscape. And as ever, it pays to be prepared.
I am all set for today. I've got my pastels, 2 flasks, lunch, nibbles. I've got my easel with the leg that falls off. Hopefully it's not going to blow over, because if it blows over, the leg will fall off.
Let's hope our wildcards come up with something absolutely gorgeous. Sorry.
It is tricky with all its changing light. I'm working a bit bigger than some other people, so it just adds to the complexity.
My textures and patterns come from what I see, you know, light and dark. The sunlight going in and out, it's fine painting-wise, it's just quite hot.
And Joe isn't the only artist feeling the heat.
You're doing great. If you want to step away from it, start bashing out another.
All right.
You can do that.
Well done, I'm having a meltdown. I've decided I'm going to start another one. I'm like, oh, for heaven's sake, I'm going down in flames on TV.
High above Bristol's Avon Gorge, 8 artists are taking on the gravity-defying span of Clifton Suspension Bridge, which should suit our next artist down to the ground.
I'm a bit of a mixture between, like, realism and a bit of surrealism, and I'm just looking at what shapes I can see and then see how everything else works around it.
Sarah Harris sees the world in bold combinations of shape and colour, which she translates into vibrant and imaginative works of art, as in her submission painting of an urban view in Manchester.
This is lovely and colourful and vibrant and a bit strange, and that's great. And I love the way that you've made us really think about the kind of architecture in a different way by creating these geographical shapes, which are, I guess, quite surreal. but also makes sense.
Yeah, it sort of just jumped out straight away. It looked like a tetrahedron rather than a column, so I wanted to convey that in the painting.
And a very large, distinctive submission, which really played with scale, and played with colour, and played with shape. So we're seeing you do all of that now, which is beautiful.
Yes, I like to push the colours and pick out the hues that are sort of talking to me.
It's just so vibrant. It's absolutely full of life.
I think I'm just going to try and zero in on that end of the bridge there, because it's quite a striking, monumental kind of shape, and I want to give it that heft.
Chris Priestley divides his working time between painting, writing and illustrating children's books. His snowy submission landscape in acrylics is a view of Gonville and Caius College in Cambridge, the city he calls home.
Chris, we've given you this very wide bridge.
Yes.
And you've chosen this tower on one end.
Yes, I have.
Why?
Well, OK, I think trying to get the whole bridge in, it would have ended up a strange painting. And there's something about the monumental quality of that, that just interested me, to try and get the weight of that coming out of the trees.
That is also a lot of red, which seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get some underpainting through that will hopefully warm the painting up.
Right, I would like to talk about your submission, which is not unadjacent in composition to what we've chosen today. We love this because of the structure and the weight of the building. So it's kind of interesting you've gone for the similar structure today.
Yeah.
We would like to see something as beautiful as your submission.
OK, I'll try.
On the nearby green, as always, the wildcards are doing it their way.
So, Chris, there are 50 wildcards, and 49 of them are looking that way.
Yeah.
What's wrong with the bridge?
It's just getting a bit crowded that way, really.
Right.
So I thought, well, I'll have a go doing something completely different.
Yeah?
He doesn't like to follow the crowd.
Yeah, I can see that.
I like to be different.
You like to walk your own path.
Indeed.
When I saw the picture, and I thought, my goodness, you know, we gave you this enormous bridge, and what have you done? You've done this tree. But when I look up from where you're sitting, you're absolutely spot on. That tree is phenomenal.
It's a very nice tree.
Yeah.
I mean, I have snuck the bridge in the corner. I'm not ignoring where you've put us.
Yeah.
Even though I was tempted.
You have an interest in skies, by the looks of it.
I like a sky. I don't really like a bridge, if I'm completely honest.
A little unfortunate, as we've plonked you next to one of the most famous bridges in the world.
I know, I'm just looking at the view that he had while he was building it.
OK. I feel like Isambard Kingdom Brunel. I feel like he's here, and you've gone, yeah, great bridge. Anyway, look at that sky.
With the wildcards being contrary, back in the pods, things are decidedly more black and white.
What I'm working with today is charcoal. I like working tonally, and so there's no colour to worry about. And I like working in a lot of detail. So 4 hours is going to be an interesting challenge.
Using fine charcoal pencils, Ian Cox's meticulous portrayal of Blackatour Copse in Devon took over 100 hours to complete. Needing to drastically reduce his working time today, he's come armed with a secret weapon.
When I look at your submission, the level of detail and the sharpness of focus, I would never have guessed that it starts with this level of looseness and fuzziness. And
Well, actually, I kind of need to explain that a bit. What I'm working with today is charcoal dust, and it means that I can work on quite a large scale and cover quite a lot of the work relatively quickly. And what I'll do as the thing goes on, hopefully, is to start using finer and finer charcoal pencil.
Yeah, I mean, it's so impressionistic in a way, isn't it? I mean, is that what you're trying to capture at this stage?
Yeah.
A sense of the mood and the moment.
That's right.
I'm a very precise painter. I think you would know one of my paintings from the detail, and also with the small areas of flat colour, it's a bit like an old-fashioned travel poster.
Despite living in the pastoral perfection of the Cotswolds, Charlotte Kenyon prefers to tackle cityscapes and architecture. Her gouache painting of a section of the Jodrell Bank radio telescope was completed using her signature detailed brushwork and opaque tones.
So we loved your submission, Charlotte. You show us something that's so profoundly man-made, but then this lovely sense of nature. I mean, really just with that raking light, those gorgeous shadows.
Yes, it's October.
Ah, so
it's very autumny light.
Well, you're getting those lovely flat tones at the moment. Is this how you always work?
Yes, I have always been a meticulous painter, and gouache forces you to be a bit more formal because of the opaque nature of it, I think, yeah.
Where I can lose myself is when I start working on the detail. So it's kind of working across the whole canvas, kind of fairly evenly, so that I don't get caught out by time.
The bridge, it might be a little bit too simple, so I've elevated the bridge to lift it up against the landscape. Personally, I don't think it's too dramatic, but we'll see.
My stated aim at the beginning was to give that end of the bridge a bit of weight. It's still got a way to go yet, and plenty of opportunity for me to do something horrendous to it.
From their precipitous position overlooking the Avon Gorge, 8 artists are depicting Bristol's famous Clifton Suspension Bridge. And as the halfway point approaches, are they happy with the decisions they've made so far?
Spent so long working out the bend and perspective of that balustrade. I've got to admit, I'm finding the stonework tricky, really tricky.
Still got quite a lot of marks to make. Currently stippling with my paintbrush. What could still go wrong? Not finishing it.
What was it that you didn't really like about this? I'm here to be your kind of painting therapist. You work through all the problems and then you won't repeat them.
I wasn't happy with, you know, the pillar. It sort of looked like it had deflated somewhat.
Yeah,
A bit like myself.
But listen, I think you need to fall in love with your new picture and you can make up for the time. I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Thanks, Sarah.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'll send you my bill later.
Okay.
So how do you think it's going?
I'm just a bit surprised that we've got this incredibly wide thing going across this very deep gorge, and so many of them are focusing on the one tower.
The paintings have such different feelings. It's extraordinary.
So Chris has given us a portrait form, one tower. How's he doing?
What I would say is that he needs to look a little bit harder because there's something about the shape of the tower that he's not quite got. It feels a bit lightweight to me.
I think it's just because I sort of think the opposite. I quite like the fact that Chris doesn't really worry himself too much about the perspective and the geometry, and I worry that if he kind of overworks exactly how that piece of architecture is, then he'll lose the sense of how it feels.
Ian's submission was full of detail. We're not going to get that level of detail today, are we?
No, that submission was 100 hours. The thing that I'm slightly worried about with Ian is that he's already getting quite fussy and we're only at lunchtime. I don't think he can really help himself.
Having said that, I like the composition. You do get the expanse and the emptiness on the right, so it's all there.
Charlotte seems to find an elegance in architecture, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you use the word elegant. I'd use polite. It's very polite.
Oh, that's such a good word.
You're looking at me like you don't like it, do you? I do like it.
No one crosses continents to see something polite.
Maybe not, but I think I would like to see something a bit. I just
bit
want to
ruder.
see. I'd like, yeah,
we want it to be a bit more rude.
I want her to get into it a little bit more.
The gouache is used for illustration, its precision, its flatness. I think Charlotte's work is very actually correct, but not particularly exciting.
I look at Kieran's two works of art, his submission, what he's doing today, and you're invited to this empty place, and it's not the main attraction. It's like, no, don't look at that. Just follow me. Have a look in there.
Yeah, Kieran loves the depths, doesn't he? He wants to go right down there. And I love the way it's coming together. I think it's rich, it's deep, it's full of story.
I think Kieran's found an elegant solution to giving us the sense of the verticality. My problem is the greens he's using, they're very flat. So I think he's got to start finding differentiation.
Jonathan is giving us that kind of wide-angle distortion thing.
He's got the sweep of the balustrade, you've got more of the expanse of the bridge, but I just feel like he's got so much left to do.
I worry that these big brushes, I've started to not look at the sort of splendour of that drawing. I'm looking at the chunkiness of the paint marks.
Jo is bringing some swirly, psychedelic... Well, are you having a good trip or a bad trip when you look at her work?
I think it's like a tapestry.
Yeah,
the way
I
Jo
do.
puts things together, it's like, you know, she's taken little bits of textile and sewn them all together.
But funny enough with Jo, I think she has got the sense of looking up at this rather monumental structure. And the colour is turned up to beyond 11, but the actual place, I am there, I feel it.
Then we have Dan and Till. Dan started one, she binned it, moved on to a second one.
I think Dan put so much of herself in the picture that if she's not feeling that painting, it's going nowhere. The second one feels much more spirited.
Yeah, I love the way Dan puts paint down. She's not afraid of it. But the tower takes up a central position on quite a small canvas, and it's kind of simple. She's got to work a bit more with it.
Sarah has the tower on an inverted pyramid hanging in the air.
Yeah.
Is the hovering bothering?
Ooh. Yeah, it is the Clifton Suspension Bridge.
Yeah.
It's just in a very radical language. I hope she can pull it off.
You know, give me more geometric shapes, incredibly sort of hallucinatory colours, and I'm very happy. But when it comes to judging, it's a very different way of treating landscape. And to judge that against the others, I think will be very tricky.
You're lost in a world of trees.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
toned it right down. I mean, what I'm looking at is a lot brighter, and in your world, everything's always a little bit darker.
Yeah, I think that's just I think it's just the palette I use. I've always used.
Yeah.
I think I tend to desaturate a little bit.
And it kind of gives it quite a moody quality.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a danger of overworking it?
Totally.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
That's invigorating. Terp's nose. Thanks, assistant.
I love that bridge, but what's that behind it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a halo, just to sort of say that this is the star of the show, and
Right.
this is what you want to look at. Sort of
Okay.
thing. Not look like. You don't want to look like a bridge.
The star of today's show, Clifton Suspension Bridge, is one of the UK's most famous architectural landmarks. But designed in 1831 by the 23-year-old Isambard Kingdom Brunel, from the outset, its construction was beset by problems.
Isambard was completely obsessed with detail, but he was really bad with finance, and so the project kept running out of funds.
In 1843, work on the bridge was abandoned.
It was called by many a monument to failure. The only parts that had been constructed were the stone towers and the abutments.
When Brunel died in 1859, he was one of Britain's most celebrated engineers, having designed the world's first ocean liner, numerous bridges, and the Great Western Railway. But with the project he called his first love, unfinished.
When Brunel died, the engineering community wanted to complete it as a memorial to him. So two engineers, John Hawkshaw and William Henry Barlow, who were working on demolishing Brunel's Hungerford footbridge in London, took Brunel's chains from that bridge and raised the funds to install them here and complete this bridge with Brunel original parts.
Finally completed in 1864, today the bridge is a Bristol icon and is currently undergoing a repaint, though fortunately there's no 4-hour time limit to worry about. Back on the green, the wildcards are nearing the end of their day's painting.
Charmaine, you've got this sort of vorticism thing going on in the sky with all the fragmentation of the clouds.
We've had a day where it's been grey at times, and then you've had a flash of blue and the sun comes out like now. So I've tried to embody a bit of everything into it.
Well, I love what you've done.
Oh,
It's a very strong
so much.
piece.
Hello, Charlotte.
Hello.
Look at the bold and beautiful colours.
Yeah, so I like using the primary colours mostly and using as little kind of black and white as possible.
Fair enough. Have you chatted to many of the other artists?
I have, yeah. Everyone's really, really lovely. Painting's quite solitary some of the time, so being in a massive group of people is really nice.
It's now up to the judges to select their favourite work.
Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. I think we all agreed that you're a rather marvellous painter.
Really?
And it's Rose Dufton's portrait of a tree, with the bridge in a supporting role that has their vote.
You have a really nice way of putting paint down, and it was kind of that sunny part of the day where everything was sort of just vibrating. It's just very delicate and very sort of evocative of today, so well done.
Totally, you got smart. Thank you so much.
No, well, it's been a pleasure watching you work.
I am feeling shocked, very happy, and like it's not real. Am I allowed to say I'm going to have a big glass of wine? Oh, yeah. Good. Okay, it might be a bottle of wine.
Rose from Leeds will go into a pool of wildcard winners to be in with a chance of a pod in the semi-final. Back on the terrace, our pod artists have entered the final hour of the competition.
I'm worried about getting a finished picture. I'm having to use bigger brushes and not take quite so long fussing over the colours.
What I've been doing for the last hour or two is putting leaves on the trees. I'd like another kind of 12 hours, but but as it stands, I wouldn't be totally embarrassed.
I am finally going to try and sort the trees out. I can still do something calamitous to it, in which case it's going in the Avon Gorge.
Above the Avon Gorge, 8 artists are approaching the end of their Clifton Suspension Bridge Challenge. Actually make that 9 artists.
And Till, he's got his own pod.
I know. I mean, look at that.
Is his relationship to art, you know, does he work at it like you?
No, I wish I had less of my struggle and more of his...
His laissez-faire attitude.
Exactly.
I have a few more textures to add, and I think then I'll just go in with an accent colour to sort of pull it together. There's a slight twinge of panic, but I'm keeping my cool.
The masking tape is there to stop the dust from getting onto the white border of the paper. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's okay. It'll be okay.
I don't want to overwork the painting. I'd much rather underwork it than overwork it. But on the whole, it's okay. It's okay, I think.
Artists, you have 5 minutes left. 5 minutes.
It would be quite easy to lose the light effect that I have. Just by overworking it, you know, it could be a complete disaster.
I haven't put any highlights on the trees, so I'm gonna just chuck those in, maybe make the shadows a bit deeper. But yeah, just getting through it.
If I had another 2 hours of time, I would use it, but a few minutes is not going to make any difference one way or the other.
If anything's gone wrong, it already has.
artists, that is it. Please stop what you're doing and step away from your easels.
What a day. I think today just reaffirmed my love for painting. Everyone's been really lovely, all the other artists are lovely, and it's just been a joy, really. Cringe, but true.
Our winner today will be one step closer to the title of Landscape Artist of the Year and a £10,000 commission for London's Courtauld Gallery. The prize will take them to the south of France, following in the brushstrokes of some of the true greats of Impressionism, like Claude Monet, whose visits to the region in the 1880s led to a radical transformation in his use of colour and light.
What Monet learnt to do while he was down there, and which is apparent in this pine tree in Antibes, is how to use light to create atmosphere and distance. You've got the one tree, and between the shadow of the tree and the cool tones of the distant hills, he's created an atmosphere where you can actually smell the air. I mean, that is magical. The south of France, I mean, it's inspired so many artists to produce really revolutionary work. So we're looking for an artist who's willing to sort of really try and experiment as much as Monet did to produce something extraordinary.
For now, in the southwest of England, the judges need to decide who will make it through to the semi-final. They start by narrowing the selection down to a shortlist of 3.
I think this is one of the strongest examples that we've had if we give the artists this really kind of iconic view, and they each give us 8 very, very distinct pictures.
What I find interesting about the tower is how some of them got it and some of them didn't. And when I look at sort of Chris's work, actually there's a lightness to his that isn't quite as rooted as I think he wanted it to be.
I don't think you get that monumentality, but at the same time, I think the way that he's treated all the trees is so lively. And I think out of all of the artists today, he actually found the most dramatic shadows. In contrast, Ian's done something which is almost forlorn. I mean, this black and white noir scene of something that looks almost abandoned.
I like the way Ian's tower is situated within the wooded hillside. I do miss that finesse in his submission, but it's a great sense of space. The longer I look at Charlotte's painting, it's got Chinese elements, doesn't it? Sort of that vertical scroll. I find it very illustrative, but there's a lot of invention in it as well.
I think I underestimated Charlotte. It's not as tight as her submission, and I really like that looseness. With Kieran's work, he's taken us right down to the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm lost in the story that sits around it. The observation of light and colour, I think, is really impressive.
I mean, it's a very, very dramatic crop. Like, OK, you gave me this really famous bridge. I'll give you a tiny bit. I'll give you the feet. I mean, the kind of audacity of that.
Jonathan, I mean, this is a sunny terrace in the south of France, isn't it?
He's saying, give me the job.
I think one of the artists who decided, let's give them the width. I love the way he's used that fisheye to lead us into the space.
Yeah. The accomplishment of this drawing is so sophisticated, it's so clever, and then suddenly you feel like I wouldn't walk across that bridge. It's too scary, you know, like I need a bit more delineation.
It didn't surprise me to learn that Jo studied textiles.
Right, there we go.
So, you know, she's broken it down into very organic shapes, so somehow it still holds true to the fact that it was foliage and trees behind.
For me, this is the most beautiful bridge. That pale turquoise, the way that the light's falling on it, everything's just beautiful to look at. I'm really pleased that Dan had the courage to start again. She's given us a sky that feels full of feeling.
You've got an artist who is the work, and you read that through the freneticism of the way in which the paint's applied. I think Dan's been incredibly successful of bringing herself into the work.
Sarah's given us a kind of otherworldly version of today, but I don't buy the sun or whatever that is behind the tower. It just seems incongruous to me.
That bit feels incongruous.
That's the bit that I can't.
Pyramid and the floating tower.
The pyramid's great. It's such a clever, inventive thing.
She was actually painting from life at some point. So a lot of coming together of disparate languages to make something remarkable.
Maybe it's a painting of what this place will look like in 200 years.
Yeah, but the question, will you walk on a floating bridge in 200 years?
With a lilac sky, yeah.
Artists, thank you all for a terrific day. You've all worked incredibly hard. I hope you're all happy with what you've managed to achieve. The judges have decided on a shortlist. The first artist is Kieran Guckian. The second artist on the shortlist is Joe Rance. And the third artist is Sarah Harris.
Well done. Thank you. The judges must now choose today's winner. To help them decide, they take another look at the artist's submissions.
Our picturesque valley and its Victorian bridge gave us a whole array of works of art today. Let's start with Joe, who gives us great colour.
Yeah, it's really interesting seeing how similar her submission and today's painting is. The use of emptiness with textures, but then she matches them with this crazy sort of embroidered foreground, and it works.
And I think what's really important looking at Joe's two works together is that you understand that this mark making isn't decorative. There are qualities in this that are quite literal. Even though, I mean, I think, but particularly under the bridge with the brown and the green trees, that's more literal than you would expect her to do if you looked at her submission, which is a little bit further out there.
Kieran is very keen to direct our eye, it seems, in his paintings in a certain way.
His language is really full of narrative drama, but in a really quiet way. They're really enigmatic pictures.
They could be taking on Caspar David Friedrich and the notion of the sublime. You know, the whole point of the sublime is that nature's supposed to be awe-inspiring, and that's why we have that sort of fearfulness when we look at his deep, dark gorges.
So Isambard Kingdom Brunel, I think, would have recognised his bridge in Kieran's picture today. What about Sarah's bridge?
He would have recognised it in spirit. That's what he was trying to do.
Isn't his bridge the squattest, heaviest, most secure? Don't worry about it, guys. This bridge has got you.
But
has that bridge got you?
But that tower is doing exactly that. You know, that is solid, and it's full of magic. And now I look at it side by side with the submission piece. I'm captivated by all those swirls and those patterns in the top right-hand corner. You know, Sarah is an artist who's really led by things that don't interest other artists.
What interests me is that you take something like Joe's here, which clearly is not what we were looking at. Those colours weren't there, those shapes weren't particularly there. You know, she's taken what she sees and she's changed it.
Yes.
Because that's what interests her. And there comes a point where you change something so much, you either take people with you or you don't.
So it's just where the artist decides to take us. At Joe's example, the things she's painting disintegrated to pattern and decoration. With Sarah, the things she's looking at disintegrated to symbolism and playing with form.
So, you know, artists are often leading the way, and, you know, that's what we would like our artists to do.
Joe, Kieran, Sarah, congratulations on getting to this stage. It's a real achievement to get to the shortlist. But only one of you can go through to the semi-final, and that artist is... Kieran Guckian.
I'm in total shock, honestly. I was not expecting to win today. It's amazing, yeah.
Well done.
Thank you so much. It means everything, because it can be scary at times, you know, trying to do this full time, and you can doubt yourself, so huge confidence boost, yeah. It's absolutely, yeah, wonderful.
Thank you so much. Kieran's got a really strong grasp of what makes a really good landscape painting. He's got a really delicate touch, he's really good at composition, and he looks really, really hard. In sending our winning artist to the south of France, we're not looking for an artist that's going to repeat or imitate what's come before. And I think that really intense looking gives me a confidence that he can give us heat, dry lands, vineyards, mountains and blue sea. Very confident.
If you'd like to take part in next year's competition or want to discover more about the work of our artists, visit skyartsartistoftheyear.tv. Next time, join us and 8 new artists in the heart of London for our liveliest landscape ever.
There's a lot going on. With 4 hours, it's tight.
Who will keep their cool?
What will be now. The die is cast.
And who will let the pressure go to their head?
I look forward to completing it without collapsing.